Hello everybody and welcome to this Let's Play video where I am doing a campaign in Master of Orion. I think it's going to be really exciting. Master of Orion is absolutely one of my favorite games, if not my favorite game of all time. I really think it's a great series. Obviously, it has a long history going all the way back to the early 90s when the first game came out. Then you had Master of Orion 2, which was a landmark release in the 4X gaming strategy space. Then you had Master of Orion 3 in 2003 coming out, which was, at least to a lot of people, an unmitigated disaster. And then about 13 years later in 2016, you have this new iteration of Master of Orion, this sort of reboot coming out. And this is the newest game in the franchise. This is the latest game, and it's gotten sort of, I guess, a mixed reception. A lot of people like it, some people don't like it too much. Now, as to my opinion, I really think this Master of Orion release is super good. It takes all of the elements from the original games that were super interesting, super intuitive, and then it gives it, first and foremost, a modern, coat of paint. Everything is super polished. The art design, the graphics, the user interface, everything has really been perfected. And then they also changed some of the aspects that I, at least personally, weren't too fond of in the original games. Stuff like real time strategy combat as opposed to tactical combat. I personally at least prefer the real time combat to the extent that I even want to do the combat. I mean, I'm not a big combat guy, but if I have to do combat, I think it should be real time. That's just my personal preference. I know a lot of people disagree with that, but from my point of view, I think that is more engaging, more interesting than the old school tactical style. Another thing that's also been changed in this new Master of Orion iteration is the introduction of star lanes. So in Master of Orion 2, for instance, you could take your ship, and if you had enough fuel, you could basically travel anywhere. Whereas in this new game, you can only travel along star lanes. So there are both pros and cons to this. I think ultimately it's a good change. I think it's something that improves the game. I just, at least personally, think it's easier to get an overview of the tactical strategic situation if the game uses star lanes as opposed to if it uses a system like the old Master of Orion games where ships could come in and fly to planets from basically anywhere. So I think this is ultimately a good change. Again, a controversial change, but one that I think ultimately serves the game and serves the user experience. So, given all that this given that all this is the case, given that this is my opinion on the game, it's pretty straightforward why I picked Master of Orion reboot, or this 2016 version, to play for this Let's Play. It could be interesting to go back to some of the older games, certainly, but if you ask me what is the best Master of Orion game, what Master of Orion game do I want to play, then it's certainly this iteration of the game. Alright, so let's get into the actual game. Now, this video, this first episode, is mainly going to be centered around the setup. So I'm going to be picking my race, I'm going to be setting up the different parameters of the game, and then in the following episodes we'll actually start to get into the real meat and potatoes of the game itself. Now, I'm picking the Meklar. Why am I picking the Meklar? I think there are sort of two main reasons. The first one is that I just really like their design, their aesthetic. I've always really liked robots, like Transformers, or maybe like Bionicle to a certain extent. I know that they're not robots per se, but they kind of have this sort of robotic, metallic look to them a little bit, at least in some of the earlier movies. So that's kind of the first reason that I just think the Meklar look cool. This sort of robotic, industrial design is really enticing to me, at least. And secondly, I think the Meklar is a really good choice simply because it's super, super good. Their stats, their traits are pretty exceptional for this game, if you ask me at least. I mean, I think at least there's sort of a widespread agreement that the Meklar is one of the strongest predefined races in the game. So if we go over to the right and look at what traits the Meklar has, it has two traits, and the first one is the industrialist trait. So this one gives you physics as a starting technology, which is cool, but not the main point here. The main point here about the industrialist trait is the fact that you get 25 plus production from your population. So all your production or all your population, I should say, they have a much higher production than normal. That's going to be a huge advantage when it comes to producing structures, when it comes to producing ships. It's just really a very, very nice perk to have. Secondly, we have the cybernetic trait, and this trait really makes this even stronger in the sense that not only does the population have an increased amount of output, or an increased amount of production, it also has a decreased amount of food consumption by 50%. So they produce more and they consume less, right? So the Meklar is all about industrialization, it's all about efficiency. And I think that's a super, super strong play for Master of Orion. Now, lastly, they also in the cybernetic trait have this ship improvement auto repair system. So when you've been in a battle, your ships automatically repair a little bit each turn, and that's also a nice, handy perk. It's nice, but the main thing again is the changes to the stats of your population. But yes, that was the reasoning behind why I picked the Meklar, and I think we should get into the actual setup of the game. So here's the setup screen, and obviously we have all the different options here on the right. I'll pick a circle galaxy, that's kind of standard. I feel like I'll go for a small galaxy size because I kind of want a quick game, a game where you meet your opponents really early on. And kind of to supplement that, I'll also increase the amount of opponents up to the max of 4. So the map is smaller and we have more opponents. So that should ideally mean we have a really engaging game where we meet our opponents really quickly. The second thing I want to change is that I want to change the starting age from post-warp to advanced. So what this means is that we'll have a lot more technologies to start off with. We'll have more ships. Our society, our faction will simply be more developed than it would have been in a default game. And what that does is also, again, speed up the process, make the game quicker, and I also thereby feel like make the game a lot more fun, a lot more engaging. Now, I have played Master of Orion a number of times, obviously, but I wouldn't say I'm a pro at it. I just kind of play it casually. I think it's really fun, interesting, but I'm not like amazing at it. So I want to keep the difficulty level for this first playthrough at the normal difficulty level, simply because I think personally at least, when I play on normal, I typically win, at least if I'm playing with a good race like the Meklar, but it's not a guarantee. I still think the AI puts up a reasonable fight. So I think playing on normal is a fine choice for this first playthrough, and then later playthroughs can maybe, bump up the difficulty a bit, and increase the challenge. With regard to game pace, I kind of want to go for lightning, and I feel like I don't need to explain at this point. It's kind of in line with everything else I've said. That I want the game to be quick, and I want the game to be engaging, and I think one way of doing that is by having a quick game pace. Now, with regard to the advanced settings, I don't want to change too much. I want to remove the pirates because I don't personally like playing with the pirates. I feel like they're kind of annoying, especially also when you have like an advanced starting age. I feel like the pirates, at that point in the game, they're usually wiped out anyway in a normal game, right? When you get to that level of development. So I feel like kind of the pirates are a little, I don't know, unnecessary, I guess. So I'll turn off the pirates, and Do I want to change anything else? I mean, I'm fine with the victory conditions. All of them can stay on. I don't think we'll get to 500 turns with this sort of very quick game. So I think the score victory is fine. Also, just sort of as a last resort, all this is fine. Minor civilizations is fine. Monsters is fine. Random events is fine. I think all of this is basically as I want it to be. But this is the game setup, and you can also see the Big Bang seed if you want to, try this map out for yourself at some point maybe. But this is the parameters that we've set, and then in the next episode, we'll go into the actual gameplay. We'll start colonizing planets. We'll start meeting the other races, and hopefully that'll be a really exciting time. I look forward to it. I hope you do as well. Thank you so much for watching.